Imagine a war told not from the victors, but from those who believed they could reshape the world. A war seen through the eyes of those who marched under the Iron Cross, who followed a leader they believed would bring glory, only to find ruin. Picture standing inside the crumbling heart of Berlin, hearing distant sirens, seeing the skies filled with bombers, and realizing the empire once promised to last 1,000 years is burning in less than 12. This is the story of World War II from the German perspective. A journey through ambition, propaganda, power, and ultimate downfall. It's a story not of monsters alone, but of men, soldiers, civilians, dreamers, and doubters, all caught in the tide of history they could no longer control. From the rise of Hitler to the fall of Berlin, from blitzkrieg triumphs to desperate last stands, this is how Germany saw the war that changed the world forever. When Adolf Hitler rose to power in 1933, many Germans saw him not as a tyrant, but as a savior. The humiliation of World War I, the crippling Treaty of Versailles, and the Great Depression had left the nation broken, starving, and angry. Factories were silent, soldiers were jobless, and people lived in fear and shame. Hitler promised revival, to restore pride, rebuild strength, and make Germany great again. Through fiery speeches, disciplined parades, and the illusion of unity, he created a vision that captivated millions. By 1939, Germany had risen from ashes to an industrial powerhouse. Its people believed they were witnessing a rebirth. But behind the Mars and flags, a darker machinery was already in motion, one driven by hatred, expansion, and absolute control. When Germany invaded Poland on September 1, 1939, the people celebrated what they thought would be a short, glorious war. The strategy of blitzkrieg lightning war stunned the world. Tanks, planes, and infantry moved in perfect harmony, crushing resistance in weeks. The victories that followed, over Denmark, Norway, Belgium, France, seemed to prove that Germany was unstoppable. Propaganda films showed smiling soldiers, cheering crowds, and Hitler hailed as a genius. For the average German, it felt like destiny, but behind the front lines the cost was growing. The Nazi regime demanded absolute obedience. Dissent was crushed, information was controlled. The public saw only victory, never the horrors of occupied lands or the cruelty of the SS. In 1941, Germany reached the height of its power. From the beaches of France to the gates of Moscow, Hitler's empire stretched across Europe. Many Germans believed they were building a new world order, one where they would never again kneel before foreign powers. Yet that same year, the seeds of destruction were sown. When Hitler turned east to invade the Soviet Union, he unleashed the largest military campaign in history. The first months were dazzling. Cities fell, armies collapsed, and German soldiers advanced deep into Russian soil. But as winter came, the land itself became the enemy. Soldiers froze, supplies vanished, and morale crumbled. From Stalingrad to Kursk, the tide turned. The myth of invincibility shattered. Letters from the front began describing hunger, exhaustion, and hopelessness. Families back home started receiving more death notices than victory parades. Inside Germany, life changed. Allied bombers filled the skies. Cities like Hamburg, Dresden, and Berlin became infernos. Civilians who once cheered the war now huddled in basements, praying as walls trembled and flames devoured their homes. Yet even then, many refused to believe defeat was possible. Propaganda minister Joseph Goebbels urged total war, insisting that suffering was proof of German greatness. Hitler's image remained sacred, even as reality collapsed around it. But for soldiers on the front, the truth was inescapable. The Eastern Front devoured entire armies. In the West, the Allies landed in Normandy. In the air, Germany's once proud Luftwaffe was powerless. And in the minds of its people, doubt began to grow. By 1944, Germany was fighting on all sides. Millions of men were dead or missing. Boys as young as 15 were sent to the front. Cities were rubble, food was scarce, and faith in victory was fading. Yet the regime demanded sacrifice to the very end. The Gestapo hunted defeatism, the SS executed deserters, and civilians were told that surrender meant annihilation. Many Germans began to realize they were trapped, not just by enemy armies, but by their own leaders. The dream of a 1,000-year Reich had become a nightmare. As Soviet troops closed in from the east and Allied forces from the west, panic spread. Refugees fled, families were torn apart, and soldiers fought battles they knew were lost. In April 1945, Berlin became the final battlefield. The once grand capital was now a graveyard. In bunkers and ruins, the last defenders, soldiers, old men, children, fought street by street. Above them, Soviet artillery rained fire. Beneath them, in a bunker below the Reich chancellery, Hitler refused to see reality. He still believed victory was possible through sheer will. But on April 30th, 1945, the man who promised glory took his own life, leaving behind only destruction. Days later, Germany surrendered unconditionally. The war was over, but for the German people, the reckoning had just begun. When the guns fell silent, the full scale of the regime's crimes emerged. The concentration camps, the extermination of millions, the genocide of Jews, Poles, Roma, and others, horrors that many Germans claimed not to have known. The world looked upon Germany with shock and anger. Cities lay in ruins, the economy collapsed, and the nation was divided by occupation. Millions of soldiers were dead, millions more prisoners, and an entire generation scarred. For many Germans, it was a time of silence and shame. They asked themselves how they had followed so blindly, how they had believed so deeply in a lie. The survivors faced hunger, loss, and guilt, not just for what they suffered, but for what had been done in their name. From their perspective, World War II was a tragedy of belief, a story of a nation that rose too fast, trusted too much, and paid the ultimate price. Many soldiers who fought believed they were defending their homeland, not conquering others. They saw comrades die beside them, not realizing they were part of something monstrous. For civilians, the war began with pride and ended in ashes. Mothers lost sons, families lost homes, and cities lost their souls. Even those who hated the regime were trapped by fear and propaganda. The truth came slowly, first through whispers, then through photographs, and finally through trials that revealed the full horror. Yet amid the devastation, something remarkable happened. Out of the ruins, a new Germany began to rise, one that rejected tyranny, embraced democracy, and vowed never to repeat the past. The lessons of the war became part of its identity. The nation rebuilt not only its cities but its conscience. From totalitarian darkness, it emerged as a symbol of reconciliation and peace. For the German people, World War II was both a nightmare and a mirror, reflecting how easily power can corrupt, how dangerous blind faith can be, and how fragile civilization truly is. To see the war through German eyes is to understand that history is not black and white. It is filled with illusion, fear, loyalty, and regret. Millions fought believing they served honor, not evil. Millions suffered for crimes they did not commit, while others justified the unforgivable. It is a story of human weakness and human endurance, of a society manipulated by power and destroyed by its own ambition. From the roar of blitzkrieg to the silence of defeat, Germany's journey through World War II is one of the greatest tragedies of modern times. A reminder that no empire, no ideology, and no leader can escape the weight of truth. In the end, the German perspective of World War II is not just about loss on the battlefield. It is about the loss of humanity, the cost of deception, and the long road back to redemption. For the world, it serves as a warning. For Germany, it remains a scar. And for all of us, it stands as proof that when people surrender their will to one man's vision, they may win the world for a moment, but they will lose their soul forever. ChatGPT can Mac.